Greetings, I'm Ann Huang, Executive Director of World Arts West. I'm super excited about launching our Living Traditions video series. We want to thank many of you for supporting World Arts West over the years. If you like what you see today, please go to worldartswest.org to support our programs. Enjoy the episode today.
Hello, my name is Mahialani Uchiyama. I'm co-artistic director of the San Francisco Ethnic Dance Festival. We'd like to begin tonight by acknowledging that the Bay Area is contemporarily known as Ohlone territory. There are 8 language dialects and many active tribal groups. We acknowledge San Francisco Bay as the territory of the Yelamu Rametosh Ohlone and the land of the Huichin in Chochenyo Ohlone territory, which is the location of our guests this week.
Hello, my name is Latanya D. Tigner, co-artistic director of the San Francisco Ethnic Dance Festival. Welcome to our first episode of Living Traditions, exploring dance beyond the performance. With this program, World Arts West aspires to lead our audience on a journey that explores various dance disciplines through a series of online interviews. Our conversations with artists will focus on their art form, its history, and what makes it unique. Each episode will focus on one company practicing a specific tradition. We will discuss how they will find a balance holding tradition and embracing innovation. Additionally, we want to give you the opportunity to ask questions of our artists, as well as learn a basic dance movement from the traditions they practice. So get ready to move your body.
Today, we will be interviewing Mary Lou and Randy Lafon, co-directors of Pura Rahura'a, a renowned Polynesian dance company of Spark Creation Studio located in South San Francisco. Te Pura explores Polynesian culture through the performing arts. I am so delighted to welcome Mary Lou and Randy. Yorana.
Yorana.
Hello,
Thank you for having
everybody.
us.
Thank you for having me.
Hello, welcome.
So great to have you here. I wanted to start by asking about the immense dedication it takes to be able to produce the kind of quality that you are consistently able to do. All the many years that you have studied this dance tradition, what kind of research have you done? And is research in general intrinsically a part of the learning protocol for Ori Tahiti?
Absolutely. I think that research is imperative. We have had the opportunity to traveled to Tahiti many times. Thankfully, we're very blessed to have the opportunity to do that. And the study of Ori Tahiti is continuous, I believe, just with not only the basics and the traditions, but also how the culture evolves, the art form evolves. So for me, it's a constant study, it's constant research, whether it be speaking with our friends and families in Tahiti, whether it be research online, whether it be reading books, reading historical books that have to do with the themes that we touch on as a group. So I think it's definitely a constant study, wouldn't you think, Randy?
Yeah, there's just not a lot of resources, at least before, that you could go to. Not a lot of books, especially in English. So for us here on the mainland to learn about this culture, it really is about meeting people. I know Bearloo, she's been taking Tahitian dance, Polynesian dance, since she was like just a small kid.
Maybe.
I was introduced to it later, much later once I met her. But
He had no choice. He became the drummer.
yeah, I didn't have a nice enough body to dance, so they made me a drummer. But really, it's really, you get a lot of knowledge from the people. So I know, like for me personally, the different directors that we've gotten to work with, the different dancers we've gotten to work with, that's really where the majority of our knowledge comes from. A lot of it, I think a lot of their stories, aren't written. They're kind of shared through dance and through music.
Orally.
Yeah, orally. And so, for us, to get the translation, to understand what the lyric is, or, that's a lot of that knowledge has come through people.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we've been blessed. We've gotten to work with a lot of just amazing choreographers, directors,
Atira artists.
Yeah, and all of them really, influence who we are today, for sure.
Great, wonderful. As someone who's seen a lot of, I won't say a lot, but Tahitian dance as well as hula, I don't know, when I see it, I see some similarities, but then also I see great differences. Can you talk about some of the similarities and the nuanced differences of the Ori Tahiti and the hula traditions?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, there's a lot of similarities even in the dance styles. We have hula kahiko, which is the ancient hula dance, and then we have Tahito, which is the ancient Tahitian, the Ori Tahiti. We have hula awana, which is the storytelling with the instruments, and then we have aparima, which is kiss of the hand, which is also storytelling, which is done to instrumentation as well. And those are the types of dances where there are similarities. But I want to say that one of the main differences is the otea. And the otea is specific to the French Polynesia and the French Polynesian Islands, Tahiti, where there's the use of the drums. The movements of the hips are more fast-paced than the hula, and while they are slow as well, but more fast-paced, that's what they're known for, and especially with the music, right? Drumming as well.
Yeah, a lot more percussion in Tahitian music than in Hawaiian hula.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people recognize Tahitian dance as being the big spectacle, a lot of energy, different kind of energy with the hula, but
both very powerful.
Yeah, both very powerful.
Very
a lot of similarities, but definitely some distinct differences.
And here we see as this is an otea that we performed at the Ethnic Dance Festival in 2018. And this is our storytelling piece where we talk about the women of the night and them transforming as the day turns night to day.
Yeah, and this is a more contemporary piece, I think you'd say, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun to produce. This is part of a full story, which in Tahitian performances, usually an otea will be comprised of a lot of different components to help sort of share the story. That one there, that was a lot of fun to perform.
Homo Emue is the title of that piece.
I remember how electrifying it was in the house.
Yes.
It was a stunning way for us to close our show that year.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could speak on a little bit of the impact of the Western world coming to Tahiti. You know, Vancouver arrived in Tahiti in the late mid 1700s, I think. From then to now, I mean, this is an oral tradition, right? So there was nothing written down
Yeah.
preceding his coming to those islands. How much do we know of what preceded his appearance there in Tahiti, and how has it evolved to the point where we are right now?
Because it was from my learnings and from my research, because it was such an oral tradition and everything was passed down orally, a lot of what is written in the European text that we see is what the Europeans saw of the Tahitian culture, correct? Because everything wasn't written down from the viewpoint of the Tahitian people. I believe that everything that we're getting from the European writings was a lot about the beauty of the islands, the beauty of the people, of the land. And I think with European colonization, many things came where the Tahitians were able to take many of the things like music, things like textiles, import, export, and all of those things were able to be brought into Tahiti. And then they were able to use those things in their cultural practices, things like costumes, food, all of those different things. So I believe that it's such an oral-based tradition, which is why we talk about a lot of the writings, right? We don't have anything that's written in English. We have to talk to all of our friends and family in Tahiti to find out all of those stories. I mean, Mahia, I know that you are a big practitioner of this as well, but I'm running off on a tangent here. Sorry. It's such a big, I guess, subject to talk about. If I'm trying to like center it only on art, right? In the cultural and the music and things like that. And in my head is the music. How was that brought from European culture? The drum, the fa'akete, that was not a fa'akete. It was not something that was found in Tahiti, right? It was brought as a snare drum. And that was what was brought over from the European culture. And now it's used in our oteas. Things like the guitar, which was brought over from Spain. So many different things that were brought over from the European countries that helped to influence what the Tahitian culture is today. And then they've taken those things, used those different things like those instruments to create the oteas, to create the dances, to share their lives through those different things that they received from the European colonization. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. May I ask what was the instrumentation prior?
Right?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of simple drums,
carved from logs.
Okay.
A lot of the older music you'll hear, it's very repetitive, simple rhythms, just continuously repetitive. Music evolved over time, but yeah, if you go way back, it was definitely much simpler, than how it is today.
Which is good. I think that's a part of the tradition and how it evolves. It's bringing in all of these different things from different cultures and using it in your culture and making it work, right? And how it will work for your culture. In the Otea, we see the djembe now, which is not a traditional Tahitian instrument. But more recently, by groups like Taitiora, there's an otea called specifically otea djembe, which was performed, and it's now brought into those different oteas, current oteas, and contemporary.
Interesting. I'm going to jump back to something you said earlier regarding the hips, the movement of the hips, and so if you can just explain the significance of centralizing the hips in some movements. In conversation with the percussion, and then also there's the movement of the legs, kind of like the flapping of the knees. It's it's very prominent. So can you kind of elaborate on the significance and why those particular movements are seem to me kind of anchor a lot of what is done.
Right. So
those are the base steps.
The basic steps. Yes.
Those are the best. Okay.
As a dancer, for me, it all starts here in your center, where I feel like we're the most grounded with the earth. And so the farapu which means to mix or to stir, is the basic step, that basic rotation of the hips. The question is how it. Can you just?
Just why is it like? Do you know like the origin of like why is that part of the body used in conversation with the rhythm? Like why that specific part of the body?
Good question.
That is a good question, and I don't know. You're stumping
I
me
like
here.
to phone a friend.
On a friend.
Can you help elaborate on this one? We've always known that the farapu is the main foundation. For me, it's because it's the part that you most center in the ground, and it's a part of the earth. That's what I've learned, and I know. I don't know if you might be able to shed some light on that as well, with that history or the background on that. That's I'm going to go to my friends and be like, can you let me know? Because that was a question. But that is what I've been taught, that is the center, and it all starts here at that belly button per se for those guys, right? Where we're born, and that's where that centralized movement comes from.
Yeah, it's always been discussed by other directors, especially at competitions when dancers are being judged. They're always looking at that movement. That's like the number one movement that they focus on. But as to the why, or how it sort of all stemmed from there, good
That's
question.
the next research that I will be doing.
I will share that. In a lot of traditional African dance forms, that movement of the pelvis and the hips is very important because that's where life comes through, is created and passes through. So there's that connection there. So you activate that space, and it's also so that cycle of life and death. And so you have that circular rotation in response to the cycle, and then also just a lot of rotation, cosmology, the sun, and just all of the circles that we have in and around us. And so just that relationship, and I appreciate your grounding, saying the grounding of the movement in that center, that umbilicus, that connection right there. So that's what it means for me and my understanding of as an African dance practitioner. But I just wanted to, see, because it's like when people of that do say Congolese or other forms of dance where that's the focus is the hips most sometimes. It's like when we see Tahitian dance, or it's like, whoa, you make that connection in like in terms of like the quickness and the precision articulation. So it's very beautiful. So thank you for that.
So I wonder if you would be kind enough to give us a little bit of a lesson in the Ori Tahiti, and we could see some of these things that we've been talking about.
Yes, absolutely. We just happen to have some drums back here, and Randy's going to be playing a little bit. I'd love to welcome to our episode one of our lead dancers, as well as our assistant artistic director, Shanna Pineda. Welcome, Shanna. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're just going to share a couple of basic steps of the Ori Tahiti. And for those of you guys who would like to join us out in our virtual audience, please feel free. We're going to start with our basics. Our hands are in our basic position in taute'a, hands on the side of the hips. Our feet are together and our knees are loose. So there is a space between those knees, as you can see, so that they can move forward and back. We're going to make sure that we bend the knees when we are practicing. And for our first step, we are going to work on our tamau. And in our tamao, Shanna is going to be swaying her hips from side to side. Okay, go ahead, Shanna. And we're pushing the hips as far as we can from right to left. And the knees are coming in and out. Her heels are going to stay flat on the ground. And her upper body is going to stay nice and tall. We'll bring our arms out to the side, and this is our basic position as we warm up the hips. Hands back to Taute'a. Our next step is going to be an onyu or an ami, which is a circular movement of that hip that we just spoke about. This is our basic movement of Boritaiti. This is where the fa'arapu starts. And as you guys can see, Shanna is pushing her hips all the way back. And turn to the side, Shanna, so they can see that rotation of the hip. We push all the way back and squeeze forward with that belly button. And the knees are nice and loose. And as you practice this step, as we talked about earlier, our fa'arapu step is a little bit of a faster version of this step. Okay, arms are going to come out to the side. And you can see this as she keeps her upper body nice and still. Face front, Shanna, please. And booty to the back. You guys can see from the back. And as you master this fa'arapu, you will be tired just like Shanna is right now. But those are the two steps, the side step of her tamao with the hips moving from right to left, as well as the onyu, which is a slower version of that fa'arapu, and then the fa'arapu, which means to mix or to stir, and that is the main step that we see in our ote'a. Our last step that we're going to share with you guys today is our varu. Our varu is a figure 8, and we're going to see Shanna, which is going to come a little bit closer so you guys can see that figure 8. Okay, that varu step, and she's going to push her hips out to the right and to the left, making an 8 with her hips. Go ahead. And I'm going to have her turn to the side so you guys can see how she pushes to the front corner and then around to the back in her varu. And the varu can be moved, all of these steps can be moved forward and back. Okay, face front, Shanna. Booty. Okay, I'm going to have her move back so you can see her feet. And with our varu, she's stepping with each varu, turning her heel slightly to push that hip out. And if our audience wants to continue to join us, we're going to bring our arms out to the side, and we're going to tamao. Just as a quick review. And then we're going to end with our fa'arapu. Fa'arapu. Thank you so much, Shanna. I hope you guys enjoyed that brief demonstration of our ote'a. And thank you, Wendy, for coming.
That was awesome. Thank you so
That
much.
was wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
So, where can you tell us a little bit about? So she was beautiful, just gorgeous. Is there a preferred age where your dancers start? Do you have an upper limit, a lower limit? How does that work?
Yes, absolutely. So we start teaching our dancers at the age of 3 years old, and we introduce them to just the basics, teach them how to count in Tahitian, teach them colors, teach them all of the basic terminology of Tahitian dance. And our oldest student at the moment, I believe she's 79 at the moment, which is wonderful because it's such a beautiful thing when you can dance an art form for as long as your body will let you, and there's no limitations. And she still does her ote'a with us at her speed and whatnot. But that's the beauty of Tahitian dance, is that you're able to perform, practice, whether it be aparima, ote'a, just to be in the class within the community for as long as you want, I think.
Yeah.
And we do have advanced levels. We have beginning levels. We have intermediate and advanced levels as well that also compete and do big performances. You can see our tamari'i here performing at our Tahiti Fete in 2017. And this group consisted of dancers ages 7 to 13 in this group that is being showcased right now.
Nice. I have a question regarding in the teaching of the technique, what types of, I guess, what is the technique, and how do you go about sharing that with your students?
So there are basic steps that we always work on in every single class, and these are the basic techniques of the hips, basic techniques of the arms, head positions as well, levels, whether you're dancing on the floor or you're dancing, with your legs straight. So all those basic techniques are a part of every single class that we teach. We shared some of the basics that we were taught not only as when I started dancing, but also are taught at like the Conservatoire in French Polynesia, in Tahiti. So all of those basic steps are the foundation of every ote'a, the foundation of every aparima. So those are steps that all of our dancers have to make sure that they continue to improve on every year that they practice Wari Tahiti with us.
Cool. So we have a question from our audience for Randy. And it says, have you learned some moves you can show?
Who is that? My mom? Who wrote this?
I have no idea.
Have you danced, Randy? Let them know if you.
There's reasons why I play drums, and I'm not a dancer. Thanks, Denise. And your dad. No, I mean, I give it up for the Tani, for the male dancers. I think that's probably one thing about Tahitian dance is it's very female heavy, and I know for our group, we would love to have more boys taking class.
Yes.
In
Tahiti, there's a lot of, obviously, in Tahiti, there's a lot of male Tahitian Tane that dance. Here in the Bay Area,
it's less. It's less, and I've done the cowboy hula, once years ago in a show. That's about it as far as my dancing goes. But thank you for the question.
Every dancer, there's a wonderful drummer who supports them if they are not dancers as well, right?
Yeah, drummers need love too.
Yes,
that's right.
We're in the back.
Right.
We like to feel as though we're an important piece.
You are absolutely. The music is just as important.
So, no, but I give it up. I give it up to the guys, man. It's hard. Believe me, I've tried. I've pulled muscles trying. It's just it's very, there's a reason why you see a lot of those male dancers, always very athletic, very fit,
Okay.
But not me. Sorry.
I have another. So, as a musician, do the dancers get a chance to also learn to play the instruments? And because I know in some traditions, the drummers, like, surprisingly, are some of the best dancers. When they come off their instruments, it's like, oh my goodness. So do the dancers get a chance to? Because I know it. I think it helps once they understand the physicality of being a musician, and also helps to learn the rhythms better. So I just wonder, is that practice?
I think what you said right there is really important. For us, we've had in the past, we've had some dancers learn how to play drums, and I do know that it's really important that they be able to identify the different rhythms. It does help with the choreography and understanding how the music is built, how it flows. They're always interested. You always see them wanting to to bang on the drums and stuff like that. You know, our
We've had
Yeah,
dancers who also
yeah,
drum.
Shanna played pahu for us,
Yes,
you know, for a period there.
yeah.
She always says that when she retires from dancing, she's going to join us in the orchestra. So,
Yeah.
Nice, 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 nice. Amy, excuse me if I mess up the last name. Amy Chu says, "Bring back drumming class."
yes, Amy, she's one of the alumni from my
Yes.
drumming class.
She dances with our company now, but she was one of our very first tamari'i drummers when Randy actually taught a tamari'i class of six students. Yeah.
Yeah, we had, you know, obviously, sometimes it's difficult to accumulate, you know, a lot of instruments. So early on, we did. We still have some dancers come in and you know, want to learn, but a lot of the learning of the pehe comes with our soloists that do compete.
Yeah.
It's a very important part of their performance is understanding, you know, how their movements are you know, intertwined with the music and the different rhythms. So we do, even though they may not be playing, we do spend a lot of time sort of
teaching all of the pehe, the basic beats.
Yeah, so they can
Tahitian
identify.
dance.
So they can identify them for sure.
Well, Abby says that she will go back to solos if you bring back the drumming class.
Oh man, okay.
We have that written
Okay.
down. So yeah,
But
Okay, there's a demand. We have a demand for class. So
I think it's great. I think it's really important for dancers to know how to drum, know how each pehe sounds like, each beat sounds, in order for them to express themselves correctly, you know, and their musicality when dancing. Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, Latanya.
Well, you got a class going. That's important. That's important. Speaking of the music, I know in a conversation we had last week, you talked about some of the ways you brought in some contemporary elements in the music with the piece that you did a couple of years ago at the Fed. Can you talk about just like can you talk about that piece and the innovativeness in it, from the costuming, the props, and all of the things, and also the inspiration behind it? I think is a very important story to share out with folk.
Yeah, so you're talking about our piece that we did, To Ana Nahi.
Yeah, Toana Nahi is a piece that we created in 2017 for Tahiti Fete of San Jose.
Yeah, so that piece was inspired from a trip that we took as a group to Tahiti. This was back probably in 16 or 15? 2016 when we traveled over there. And for a lot of the dancers, this was their first time traveling to Tahiti. So I think it was a little bit of a culture shock when they arrived in Tahiti and there was not very much Wi-Fi, you know, available to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, what we were noticing was we would go out to do workshop or something, and
excursions
then
on the
island, right? And you know, nobody's connected, right? Everybody's just sort of
taking in the beauty of the islands.
Yeah, taking in the islands, you know, enjoying each other's company, you know, immersing in the culture. And then as soon as the bus gets back to the hotel, there's like, you know, 30 dancers sitting there in the lobby, connecting to the Wi-Fi
to find out what's going on
yeah,
Facebook.
And they're just like all just locked in on their phones.
So this piece that we created here is actually our contemporary Otea Orirau, and it actually talks about, we actually have phones in our hands, prop phones, and it shows the disconnect between dancers in this Otea.
And between people.
Technology. And that's kind of what we wanted to show in this piece, because there was such we were seeing that at that time there was such a disconnect. They were in a beautiful place and their phones were the most important. And so we decided to create this Otea where we had basically faceless people because they were so in tune only with what was going on their device that they forgot about what was happening in the world. They forgot to take a moment and take off that mask and enjoy the people, the connections around them. And we kind of pushed the envelope with this because we wanted to go far with it. You can see they're wearing visors. You can't see their faces. We went with blacks and silvers in our costuming. Metallics to show the different devices, the modern
electricity.
Electronics. And we actually, in the music, the instrumentation of this piece.
Yeah, so for the music for this piece, because the music is also an important part of telling the story. So when we were composing the drumming, we decided to incorporate some little modern instrumentation, not traditional Tahitian instrumentation, and then we also took some very recognizable iTunes ringtones. So if you listen to the drumming, you'll hear dun 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 dun. So we just kind of looped that in hopes that the audience would recognize this as something technological, something modern. So
And understand what was behind it, the meaning behind this piece.
yeah, this piece was definitely a lot of fun to perform. A lot of people remember, they remember this piece. And we're glad because this was really one that we felt like had a very strong message.
And it's very relevant even today
Mhm.
if you watch that piece in particular, which I hope you do. And let us know if you understand it.
Cool.
It was a stunning performance. Jason would like to know if there was anything in your San Francisco Ethnic Dance Festival experience that stands out.
Wow. So for us, this was the first time we've had the privilege of performing, and we've gotten to perform on a lot of different stages. We've been very, very fortunate, but this performance was by far one of the most memorable. For me, the best part of it was just the community with all the different ethnicities and all the different dance groups from the different genres that were performing. It was very like inspiring. I know a lot of times we compete in competitions and stuff, and you try to be supportive, but there is that sort of element of competitiveness that happens in some of the events we've been at. But this one here was really like you could just feel it.
The supportive
community. Not just and then after the show, I couldn't believe how long it took to get out of the theater because we kept jamming
and celebrating one another
out on the sidewalk, like with all the other different percussionists and drummers and stuff. It was just like this huge party
and celebration
after the show, and it was just a blast. Definitely by far one of the best experiences I've ever had. I know our dancers and musicians that were there that day, feel the same way. So any group out there that gets an opportunity to perform, do it. It's going to be just an amazing experience.
Yes. And thank
That's
you.
wonderful.
Yeah.
It was, it's always like that, and it's always different because of the different groups that come together, but it's always such beautiful to see all those, folk from representing different cultures around the world in one place together, celebrating, as you said.
Yeah. And when we perform, a lot of times our audience is people who know us as people or people who are enthusiasts with our genre, but this was a really, really like diverse mix of audience. Yeah. So it was just really cool to again, just to be out there with all the different audience members, and you could just see their appreciation for all the different cultures. So again, just a beautiful, beautiful production. We loved it.
Cool, nice. I had one other. I want to jump back for a second in terms of the sound, the techie sound from the phone sound, and I think that's actually called the marimba. When you go in, so it's actually a wood instrument that they put on the iPhone that it's become technology. You hear it as an electronic sound, but it's actually a wooden instrument, which is crazy. So that's and then you put it in your piece as a tech sound, but it's actually a wood instrument that's making that sound. So yeah.
It's funny how things just sort of
influence one another,
come together like that. That was by far one of the coolest pieces that I've had an opportunity to be a part of and to create. Hope to do more, for sure.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
I wonder go ahead, Latanya.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you would want to just take a moment and let us know um, this current time that we're going through and how your community has held together, and just speak on that for
Yeah, absolutely.
we have just a few moments left.
Sure. We were blessed to have a community that continued to dance together via Zoom. During our shelter in place, we had all of our classes conducted online after 2 weeks after we decided that we had to close, or we had to close, not decided. And we actually just finished and wrapped up our recital, which was called Dancing in the Zoom Light. And we got to celebrate, as you can see here, all of our dancers in their in their homes, in their spaces, all dressed up, still celebrating all of the accomplishments that we had worked on. We taught classes over Zoom. It was quite a challenge, but together we did it. And we stayed connected. We stayed as a family. We stayed as a group. And we were really, really thankful that we were able to stay with them. They helped us get through it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was the biggest takeaway from the last couple months is dance was really something that continued to bring people together at a time when they couldn't. So we're very fortunate that we did have Zoom as a way that we could all be together in this sort of virtual space. I think everybody it was therapeutic for everybody, and then being able to still put together a performance, I think, is also really important because dancers they love to dance, but they also love to perform. So giving them that arena was, I think, a really great accomplishment.
And this is actually called Otea Quarantine because, again, the theme was based on current events, and we thought that this was the most fun thing to do, I guess, during our time in shelter in place at home. So it was great to create this.
Jason says the Zoom is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Our dancers had a lot of fun. We were happy to see them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's very inspirational to see this example, because we were all kind of, just suddenly cut off from one another, and how you found a way to keep the art going, to keep the community going. It's a real inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I know for Marilu, that was, I know for that period there when we had to close, she was just thinking of how can we keep everyone together?
How can we keep our community together?
Yeah.
And dance is what made us stronger and helped us as a community to get through those couple of months, and even now, just dancing together. So it is very, very important that we're able to stay connected, whether it be virtually, even though we're not in the same space.
Mm-hmm. Well, Marilu and Randy, Maururu, thank you. This has been a true pleasure and an honor. Thank you for participating in Living Traditions and sharing your wealth of knowledge with all of us. And also thank you to our viewers for joining us today, and also to those who submitted questions.
We'll be back next week, Tuesday, July 14th at 6:30 p.m. with Antoine Davis. Antoine is a multi-percussionist who has co-founded the Las Vegas-based performance arts company, Molodi, performed with Las Vegas and North American production of Stomp, and toured nationally with Step Africa. He is actively performing and teaching workshops and residencies in the U.S. and internationally. Until then, stay safe, wear a mask, and dance your troubles away.
Thank you. Maururu, thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I Hemeleno Kaukolo Hibai. Kapo Iki.